learn about a new chapter called First Empire and Inspiring Empire. So when we talk of the empire, it means several kingdoms or states which have brought together under a single king or a single ruler. So under a single king or a ruler, there are many states, right? So they were Janapadas. So Janapadas, they captured neighboring states and then they formed Mahajanapadas and kingdoms. So by capturing many states, they became the big kings or rulers. Magadha was the strongest of the 16 Mahajanapadas that emerged. So out of the 16 kingdoms, Magadha was the strongest kingdom. Next, let's see about the Alexander the Great. He was a Macedonian king and he was one of the world's greatest conquerors. And his empire started from Macedonia in Greece and extended in India till where? Till river Bias in Punjab. So this Alexander, he used to hear a lot about India, its richness, its wealth. So he wanted to conquer the complete India. Since he started conquering the northern part of India, the smaller kingdoms in the northern part of India became weak, and then the weak and smaller kingdoms were conquered by Chandragupta Maurya. This is the image of a Macedonian king, that is Alexander the Great. Next is Chandragupta Maurya. Ashoka ruled Mauryan kingdom. That kingdom was actually founded by his grandfather, whose name was Chandragupta Maurya, and this kingdom was founded 2300 years ago. This is the image of Chandragupta Maurya. This Chandragupta Maurya, he was supported by a great physician known as Chanakya or Kautilya, and Chanakya has written a book called Arthashastra in which all his ideas were written down. This is the image of the physician Chanakya. So in the Chandragupta Maurya's empire, there were several cities, and the capitals of those empire cities were Pataliputra, Taxila and Ujjain. These Chandragupta and Kautilya, finally they captured the kingdom of Magadha in the 321 BC, and then they extended their empire up to river Indus and taking back parts of Alexander's empire also. Chandragupta Maurya extended his empire up to river Indus, taking the parts of Alexander's empire, and also then he laid the basis for his big Mauryan empire. There was a person named Megasthenes. He was a Greek ambassador and he stayed at the Chandragupta's court at Pataliputra city for several years. He written a book called Indica, which was a valuable source of information about the life of India during the Mauryan period. So this was the book called Indica. By the end of this Chandragupta Maurya's rule, the Magadha kingdom became a big empire, and it has stretched from Hindu Kush in the west to Bengal in the east and Himalayas in the north to Narmada in the central India. Next was Bindusara. Bindusara was the son of Chandragupta Maurya. He ruled from 297 to 203, and it is believed that he has conquered 16 states and he has extended the Mauryan empire very much greatly. Ashoka, a unique ruler. So the most famous Mauryan ruler was Ashoka. He was the first ruler who tried to take his message to the people through inscriptions, and these inscriptions were written in Prakrit language, and were written in the Brahmi script. This is the image of Ashoka. Kalinga is the ancient name for coastal Orissa. Ashoka fought a war, conquered this Kalinga. Kalinga was a powerful kingdom because it was the center of trade and also pilgrimage. Earlier it was ruled by Nandas, gained independence. So Bindusara also tried to capture Kalinga, but he couldn't. So for Ashoka, the possession of Kalinga was very important. So he fought a war. In this war, it was very much bloody and many thousands of soldiers and common people were killed. So he was shocked after the battle of Kalinga, and he decided never to wage a war again. He became a Buddhist. So this is the landscape of Kalinga. Next is Ashoka and his Dhamma. So Ashoka Dhamma did not involve worshipping of any god or doing any performance or a sacrifice. He felt that the people of the kingdom are like his children. He is the father. So he had a duty to instruct his children, and he was inspired by the teachings of Buddha. There were many problems that were troubling him because people in the empire were following different religions. This was leading to conflict. Animals were being sacrificed. Slaves and servants were ill-treated. There were quarrels in the families and also among the neighbors. So Ashoka felt it was his duty to solve all these problems. So he appointed officials known as Dhammamata, who went from place to place teaching people about the Dhamma. So Ashoka got his messages inscribed on rocks and pillars. He instructed his officials to read those messages to the common people who couldn't read themselves. He also sent messengers to spread the ideas about Dhamma to other countries such as Syria, Egypt, Greece and Sri Lanka. Ashoka undertook construction of roads, digging of wells, building of rest houses. He arranged medical treatment both for human beings and animals. How was the Mauryan administration? It was a totalitarian one and a benevolent one also. So there were many books written at that time at Arthasastra, Indica. So from all these books we could come to know how was the administration at that time. There were many officials who were known as Adhyaksha, Yuktas, Pradeshika.